You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of ShopPay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with no artificial sweeteners and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast. Well, sort of welcome to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast. This week, I am bringing you something slightly different because, well, I'll be honest, this show still has a lot more listeners than my other show, Tape Spaghetti. And I think that Tape Spaghetti is worthy of at least as many listeners as the Tone Mob Podcast. We put a lot of work into it, and we get a lot of really great feedback from those that do listen to it. So I think it's time. It's time. It's been a while. It's time to drop another Tape Spaghetti episode here in the Tone Mob feed to let all the Tone Mobbers get a little sample of it, and maybe you'll slide over in whatever podcast listening service you are using and give a subscribe to that show too. We publish weekly. It's a show where Scott and I explore the weirder sides of music. Now, sometimes that can get a bit morbid, but oftentimes it's stories like this one from a band that you all know and you all heard if you are over the age of, let's say 26. There's a little ditty that you may recognize that goes something like, I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never gonna keep me down. Yes, we are talking about Chumbawamba on this episode, and that band has a lot more going on than you might expect it to. It has a crazy history. They have some really interesting ethics and ethos that drive them as a group, probably a lot more deeply than you would imagine. This is a story worth exploring, and we explore things like this every week on episodes of Tape Spaghetti that publish wherever you get this podcast on Tuesdays, typically. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, well, why don't you keep listening and find out? Let's get into it. Here we go. So they're at a bus stop, and across the street, they see this kid, and he's wearing a homemade straitjacket that his mom had to help put on him that was like crafted out of a parka. And Nigel Hunter, as you can recall, becomes Dan Burt No Bacon. So maybe this all is a little bit of foreshadowing here. But they see this guy in a homemade straitjacket, and they both go, we gotta be friends with that guy. We gotta go meet. You are listening to Tape Spaghetti, the podcast about the twisted and tangled innards of the music industry. Some of this content may not be for all listeners or viewers, so if it's not for you, no harm, no foul. We'll just catch you on the next one. All right, without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go.
Welcome back to another episode of Tape Spaghetti. I am Scott Marquart, this handsome man with a bit of a mustache coming in for the first time. Opposite me is the one and only Blake Weiland. It's been a while since I've seen you. Mm-hmm. It won't seem that way to the average listener because sometimes we batch some stuff and then wait a little bit. But it's been maybe 2 weeks, and then you show up with an all new do going on.
I'm just trying something out. I don't know if it's going to work or not. Every time I've tried it in the past, it has not worked. So, but I'm older. things are changing. Maybe it'll be a new era for me. That would make me quite happy if it would work out. It would make me happy.
I absolutely believe in you. I would rock the mustache thing, except for two reasons. One, there's already a guy in my friend group that has had the mustache the whole time, and I don't really want. He also has long hair. I don't want to really infringe upon his thing. It's kind of his thing, you know. And then two, my wife just hates it.
Well, I think number two is the real reason. Let's be real.
Yeah. I used to in college. I was always like the last guy there, or like one of them for some reason. I like to be the last person standing. And I had this pink blazer that was probably a woman's blazer that I found at a Goodwill. And I would have 80s night where I would shave whatever finals beard I had going on to a mustache, and I'd put on my pink blazer, and I would go out to on the town. And the last time I did it, I went to Las Palmas, a little like mid Mexican restaurant in Midtown. And one of the guys in the kitchen called me a mariposa. Oh. Which is a butterfly.
That's a butterfly,
but I knew what he was intimating. I also was like, that's one of the best ways I've seen that done linguistically.
Yeah, mariposa.
Yeah, it's not offensive per se. I knew what he was saying about me.
Sure,
but it's not a mean word.
No,
I guess
no. In fact, there was a Mexican cereal group, and one of the members was El Mariposa.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When you say serial
killer group, did I not add that in there?
Oh, okay. You just said serial group, and I was I
left a very crucial part of that sentence out.
A group that assembles to eat cereal. I was actually imagining like the sort of like animated band of like gang of friends that would appear on a cereal box.
Yeah.
Which made sense.
I
just was like, where are you getting Mexican cereal?
I wish any of those things were actually what it is. Instead, it's a horrible, horrible story that I can tell you one day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or tell our listeners one day.
Oh, it doesn't have anything to do with music, so I probably won't get to tell that one.
In our every other weekly segment, Blake tells a horrible story for an hour.
Yes. Who wants to hear about people being gutted and fed to a cauldron? I have a story for you.
That's what my dear co-host Blake is for.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you this much. This week, it's a little different story. We're not getting into blood and guts necessarily, though there's some mild violence here and there. But it's a more interesting story than straight up murder like I usually bring you. Yeah.
That's what a welcome relief. Thank you so much.
Yeah. It's an interesting story for sure. And I guess we might as well segue into it. What do you say?
Well, I will just add this before we segue. Okay. It tickles me a bit that you're the one drawn to the sort of darker side of things, like not just in this context, but also in like your movie appreciation experience and all of these things.
Music,
because
yeah.
I think you are like a purer, nicer person than I am, and yet I'm the one trying to bring the nice stories to the people.
I have to get it out in some outlet somewhere.
I guess that's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Huh. I'll watch horrible movies, listen to horrible, scary music, read horrible, scary stories and comic books, and try to pick up cars every week to battle with my internal demons. That's what I do. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if the listeners know this. I'm sure a good chunk of them know you personally, but not all of them. But Blake is in fact a very good person. He's a good friend, a good father, a good husband. He's a lovely guy. He wakes up at like 9:30 or whatever in the morning. But outside of that,
yeah, I do wake up at 9 usually is my preferred waking hour, and it's a good time to wake up. Yeah.
I wonder if you were to assemble a group of fathers of two that wake up at 9 a.m., I wonder how many other people would be in that room with you. I feel like it wouldn't be many.
I've yet to meet a single other one.
I would like to join that group were I to have children one day.
Mm-hmm. It's a nice group. Now, granted, the flip side of it is I'm up very late, which is also my preference. This is all by design, so it's fine. I'm not complaining. It's all good.
Yeah. Don't feel too bad for me that I sleep so late in the morning. It's because I'm up doing cocaine all night at a dance club. It's a cross that I bear. but that's why I am forced to sleep in late.
Yeah, I have to. I have no choice. And by dance club, I mean my backyard. And by cocaine, I mean not that.
Not cocaine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, take us into our story. Give the people what they want, Blake.
All right.
People showed up not for my endless diatribes and whatnot, but for the meat of the story that you were about to bring us.
I think they like it all. I think they want it. They want it both ways, and that's fine with me. Yeah. Well, I've thought of a few different ways I could get into this story to start off, and I've not settled on which one is the best one, so I'm just gonna roll the dice.
Yeah, so you've chosen to not get into it at all.
Yeah, see you later, everybody.
Like you still haven't decided, as far as I know.
Scott, when I say the words anarchist punk rock collective, what's the first band or musical artist that springs to your mind?
Chumbawamba.
Whoa! Look at you.
Did I get it?
You got it. That's what we're talking.
Yes.
I really thought you might go Crass because that's where most people would go with that.
Oh, that delights me. Yes, I know of Chumbawamba's hilariously political leanings.
I thought that you probably had some familiarity with it. I knew about it. This is one of those things.
Oh, I'm so excited. To the listener, I truly didn't know this. We sometimes really surprise each other.
Yeah, this was one I felt like he doesn't need to know. It'll be better if he's surprised. But I had a feeling you would be familiar with a lot of this.
Just a bit.
I knew about this a long time ago. Didn't know all the details that I found during research, but I heard about this and did a little bit of digging probably 6 years ago and was like, wow, they were the real deal as far as a anarcho-punk collective goes. It's not something, I'm sure if I was, older at the time and paying attention to their hit Tubthumping, I would have probably been more aware of their political leanings. But of course, like most people that are around our age, what I know of Chumbawamba outside of finding all this out was, I get knocked down, but I get up again, and I'm never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down. Which is, I love that song, unironically. I love that song. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I wonder if other people's experience of that song is that, like, it still comes up to me in conversation with other millennials or older. Like, I find myself occasionally being like, he drinks a whiskey drink, he drinks a vodka drink, he drinks a lager drink, he drinks a cider drink. that little pre-chorus comes up.
Yep. It is a lot of fun, and I can totally understand why it took the world by storm. But it's so crazy to think that one of the more extreme politically bands in popular music was, in fact, the band that made that song.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all. That was also the song in which I first understood that the English will use the term pissing to mean like drinking. And also that was why my sister couldn't get the CD, because I was raised, as I brought up before, in a fairly religious, in the way that the 90s Satanic Panic worked, household where we were, for a time at least, denied access to many secular things. And my sister was way too honest. And she was like, the only thing on the album is that they say the word pissing, but they're English and that's not what it means. And my parents were like, nope. And I'm like, you didn't need to tell them that.
Yeah. You let them find that out on their own. If they ever do.
Wouldn't.
Yeah. Well, sorry, Mom and Dad. And Dad, I know you listen to this, which I just found out a few weeks ago. My father listens to this. So hello, Dad.
Hi, Mr. Weiland. Thanks for lending me Blake.
I didn't always tell you about everything that was in the lyrics of my CDs. But to be fair, in most of the music that I was listening to, you couldn't understand it anyway. So it didn't really matter.
That's why it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought the opposite thing, having to be like later in the post-hardcore like Christian world, be like, no, they're singing about God. It's cool. And they're like, it doesn't sound like that. I'm like, no, but they are. And they're like, nah, you're not going to get me with that.
You're not going to convince me that Zayo is singing about any of that stuff.
It was literally, it was Zayo and Underoath.
Two of my favorites. I love those bands. Fantastic. Well, segueing into the story, let's go tell the tale of Chumbawamba, which is fun to say. So there's a lot of people involved in this, but we're going to zoom in on what I'm going to call the core members. I hope they don't take offense to it, me calling them the core members, because they all very much viewed this as a collective project. So we've got Boff Whaley. We got Nigel Hunter, whose stage name was Danbert No Bacon. He's the only one with a stage name as far as I can tell. So we got Alice Nutter, Lou Watts, and the front person, Dunstan Bruce. There we go. And whenever I hear the name Dunstan, I think of the old TV or movie Dunstan checks in. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the one with Jason Alexander, right?
Yes.
Jason Alexander's like the hotel manager or whatever, running after this dadgum orangutan.
That keeps checking into my hotel.
Get out of my hotel, orangutan.
Yes. I'm glad that we have similar reference
I
points.
also think of that, yes.
Yeah. But Dunstan Bruce actually listened to a podcast with him on it and got some of this from that. I listened to several podcasts to put this together. There is too much information to cram in, so we're going to be kind of just highlighting things going around. You wouldn't think there would be as much to go over with Chumbawamba as there is, but they were a band for a really long time. They were a band for 30 years, and they didn't start getting big until about 15-ish years into it. So there's quite a tale to tell. So we'll start in the northern England area called Burnley. It's a working class town. It's a kind of a sad working class town at this point. I'm not sure what it's like these days, but back in the 80s, it was kind of unfairly looked down on, kind of like the Deep South gets a reputation. It was basically that, but the English version of it. And the jobs are kind of gone in a similar fashion. It's kind of a lot of the jobs got shipped off overseas, and so there's not a lot to do. A lot of problems. But this is where Boff comes from. I should say his real name is Alan, but he goes by Boff. So Boff is a Mormon kid. He's obsessed with football, and he's just really bad at doing it. And so he's trying to find his way in this town. Loves sports, can't do it. Not very many Mormons in this area, so there's not a lot to relate to there. And then one day, and a lot of people will tell this story about the Beatles, but he tells this story about the Sex Pistols. He sees them on TV doing Anarchy in the UK, and like that, his brain's instantly rewired. That's what I want to do. That's my thing. I'm a punk rocker now.
Yep.
So he befriends a person named Midge. We don't get a last name. So Midge is like the only other punk that he knows. Midge would wear pants so tight that had to slit the bottom of it so his feet could go through.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's commitment to the bit.
That is. Yeah. Yeah. That's really, really sticking to it. Midge, has nothing to do with the band. I just thought it was interesting. His dad was obsessed with saving electricity. So the house was always dark. They used very, very low wattage bulbs. And he would get yelled at when his friends would come over and they'd ring the doorbell too much not because it's annoying, but because it's wasting electricity. He doesn't want to pay for that electricity.
I thought all dads were like this. Is this a remarkable feature?
I think I am like this. I am like this, but I do not intentionally buy dimmer bulbs so that I can't see in the house.
That's a lot, I will say. My family doesn't turn the lights on, basically. It's very dark. They just don't do it.
When I'm home by myself, I basically don't have the lights on. But when my family's home, I do.
I grew up with the, turn the light off!
I think, yes, I do that. But I think he takes it to the nth degree.
Okay.
Where like the house is just dark 24/7, even when the lights are on. So Midge is who he hangs out with, and they're bebopping around town one day, and there's this scene out of a movie that happens when they meet Nigel Hunter. So they're at a bus stop, and across the street, they see this kid, and he's wearing a homemade straitjacket that his mom had to help put on him that was like crafted out of a parka. Okay. And Nigel Hunter, as you can recall, becomes Dan Burt No Bacon. So maybe this all is a little bit of foreshadowing here. But they see this guy in a homemade straitjacket, and they both go, we got to be friends with that guy. We got to go meet him. So
what a thing to wear around. You'd be such a sitting duck. I mean, people could just walk up and pick your pocket. There's nothing you can do about it.
Push you over. What are you going to do? He's just wearing a homemade straitjacket. And his mom, I have to wonder, like, if your son comes to you like, can you put me in a straitjacket so I can walk around town? To be like, no.
Right.
What are you talking about?
What mom's going to do that?
I'm all for some, more out there costumes and looks and vibes, but I do want you to still be able to use your arms. I think that's a good idea.
We all knew the cool, permissive mom, in the friend group, but I don't know that it was quite that style of permissiveness.
That almost seems like, yeah, sure, kid. We'll see what happens.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. So this merry band of punks, they just like hit the ground running. As soon as they found this subculture, they're just like, this is what we do now. How do we be punk rock? So like any good, 14-ish-year-old, they travel to another town and meet a man who constantly has food in his beard for some reason. And he is a bootlegger, not the Southern kind of bootlegger, but a bootleg record salesperson.
Oh, cool.
And so they get all these bootleg records from this other town and they bring them back and they resell them to their classmates. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of starting this like miniature underground economy where they're being kind of self-sufficient in a lot of ways. They're not fully, obviously, they're still living at home. But
can I ask you a quick operational question here?
Sure.
The bootleg records at this time, are they like literal like vinyl 12-inch records? Is it cassette tapes? It's probably early for CDs.
It's not CDs. This would have been the 80s. My understanding is it's actual records.
Huh. It makes sense. I never really thought about that somebody must have had like some sort of etching, like we'll copy this record onto this record. There must be some sort of like home version of that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how they functionally did it. And maybe it was tapes. Cassette tapes obviously are very easy to do. We all did it at some point. So it's possible that it was that. But they did, all the sources I said bootleg records. So I assumed that meant vinyl, that's an interesting point. I hadn't really thought about that later. Yeah. So they're all hanging out in this, it's kind of a bar, kind of a youth hangout spot, whatever. I'm sure there's some shenanigans afoot that were slightly less than legal. And there's a promoter that says, hey, we need a band to play this club. And what we want you to do is write your name down and drop it in this hat. And we'll pull out the name of the band that's going to play next. So they're like, I don't know, we don't play anything, but sure. So they come up with
literally like don't even play instruments. Really
no, they're just a bunch of punk rockers that don't play anything, don't have money for anything.
Sound like a bunch of punks until they. This is when they became punk rockers.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah. So they come up with the band named Chimp Eats Banana. They're very solid with their yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of has a little bit of a foreshadowing there. So Chimp Eats Banana, and I don't know what they mean when they say they started playing gigs, because they didn't have like guitars laying around and drums laying around, but they started showing up to these things and they had all these themed nights where they'd be like, it's pajama night, and they'd all show up in their pajamas. And then they had lounge chairs night where they all would sit and perform in lounge chairs, and like all these different themed nights that they would show up to this club and perform. And I'm not sure exactly what a Chimp Eats Banana show looked like exactly. But that is what they did. That was their first kind of action. So they do eventually get some instruments. They acquire one acoustic guitar and one snare drum, and they hitchhike to Paris like any good British-based punk probably does at some point, I would imagine.
How cool, yeah.
Yeah. So when they get to Paris, they're like, oh, well, we're here. We have nowhere to stay. What should we do? I know. We're going to break into the local stadium, and we're going to sleep in those seats and try to sneak out before the workers get there in the morning.
That is like the last place I would go. At least these days, you'd think there'd be just teeming with security at all times, and I'm sure that it is. But one can imagine a circumstance in the past where maybe they're like, it's just a big hole in the ground.
Yeah, there's probably 3 janitors, and they're just like, They'll be fine.
Yeah.
They're just sleeping. It'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what they did for quite a while. They would busk all day, try to get money for food and beer. That's basically all they did because they were sleeping in the stadium. They didn't have a lot of costs there. And it was during this time that in the stories, they purposely obfuscate like all the time. This is when Chumbawamba became their name at some point. I don't know if it was through any of the stories that they told. None of them made sense. They purposely lied to every reporter when they were asked where the name came from. They told a different story every time, and then they would laugh when they would hear it reported later. Obviously, no
probably
reporters
just an inside joke for some kids.
Yeah.
When you said chimp eats banana, that's where my head went. I was like, chimp eats banana, Chumbawamba. Like you can imagine getting that out of those words.
Yeah. Chumbawamba is catchier, but chimp eats banana actually makes sense. So I don't know, but that is the time in which they came up with Chumbawamba. So after that, they move from Paris and they go to Leeds, and they find this huge house. It's an enormous Victorian mansion, and it is a mess. It's completely abandoned by what I assume would be the actual owners. The garden, which we would call a yard. I've learned this about British people. They call their yards gardens, even if they're not growing tomatoes in it.
The British garden, yeah.
So it had an overturned VW Beetle in it. That was its main feature. The doorknobs and all the metal had been stripped out of the place for the most part, for scrap, I assume. And even some of the nice floorboards were torn up, and something happened with them.
Yeah, looking for wood. Go and get them.
This is part I really enjoyed. I heard this on a podcast, and it's I can just picture this in my brain, and it's hard to imagine what this person's life was like. But there was a squatter there, and he only ate avocados. He would not eat anything else, and he existed solely in a loincloth, and he followed a religion known as Life Wave, which both the podcaster I was listening to nor I could find any information on. So maybe it was his own thing. It. Yeah.
I did not know that avocados existed prior to 2011, if I'm being honest. I thought they just came out of nowhere.
It did feel that way, didn't it? Suddenly everyone was eating avocados.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure they were around, but definitely a niche interest back then. Yeah. Especially in England. I mean, they weren't making guacamole there.
This guy was making guacamole in his belly 24/7.
I guess he was.
Yeah. I love avocados, but I can't imagine only eating avocados.
I don't like avocados. I like guacamole. Like, it's not a flavor thing, but I like chopped up avocados on a salad or something.
Yeah. Not for you?
Blah. Not for me. Hate it.
They don't have a flavor really. So that's fair.
They've got a mild one. I don't mind them in a smoothie. Guacamole is good, but I just don't like the act of eating.
The waxy, soft, like kind of waxy, but kind of not. Yeah, I do like that.
And it always feels like it's off. It's like it's either like really hard and not yet ripe, or it's like brown and kind of dingy. I imagine there's like a 30-second line there where it's like perfectly ripe. And if I had an avocado in that moment, it would change my life. But I haven't. You
basically got to find one that has just the right squish. And then once you open it, you eat it immediately. That's basically what you got to do.
Just.
And I don't think the LifeWave guy was probably particularly, I think he ate whatever avocado showed up.
I think he'd have to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Rocky.
What's up, Vincent?
Did you hear about the latest?
Latest what?
The latest drop from Maris. It's totally insane.
No, tell me more.
Maris just released Enzo X.
What's that?
Enzo X is a supernova expansion from the original Enzo into the highest quality and most flexible studio synthesizer ever created in a pedal format.
Whoa!
Enzo X combines 5 synth types, 5 drives, 3 reverbs, and 5 modulations. It also includes a full 2.5 second stereo delay, all in one pedal.
That sounds hard to use.
It's not. The UI is from the same family as the Mercury X and the LVX. It's super easy to dive in and see exactly what you are tweaking in real time.
Oh, I see. It's right there on the screen.
Yep.
Is it just for guitars, though?
Nope, you can plug almost anything into the Enzo X, including your MIDI controller.
That sounds incredible. Where do I get it?
You can pick up Enzo X online at maris.us or at any of their fine retailers across the globe.
Did you just say across the globe?
They know what I meant.
Wait, are we getting paid for this?
I'm still waiting on that cash money from last time.
He better at least give us pizza for dinner.
I'm not giving him his Enzo X back until he does.
For more information, make sure you check out maris.us, and apparently I have to go order a pizza. How exactly do artists get their music on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all these services? How in the world do you get your music there? Well, in the past, you had to use something called a record label. But these days, you can use DistroKid. DistroKid is the absolute easiest way to get your music up on streaming services. And it's the most affordable way to do so. Not only do plans start at $22.99 for the entire year, that's less than $2 a month, DistroKid also does not take a cut of your streaming revenue, unlike some other services out there. Even better if you sign up by going to tonemob.com/distrokid. That's tonemob.com/distrokid. One more time, that's tonemob.com/distrokid. You'll get 30% off. That's right, 30% off their already extremely reasonable prices. So go to tonemob.com/distrokid and get your music out there. We are brought to you today by Sweetwater, specifically the Gear Exchange. You may have heard about this. This is a place where you can go to buy and sell your used gear. Maybe you got a pedal over there that's just kind of collecting dust. Maybe there's something you've been eyeing from the Sweetwater catalog. Well, right now is a great time to turn that unused gear into something you're actually going to use. Even better, if you sell on the Gear Exchange, you can keep 100% of the sale as long as you choose a Sweetwater gift card as your payout method. That is not too shabby because, let's be honest, most of this buying and selling we do is just to fund new gear purchases, and that is a great way to reach a wide variety of customers and keep 100% in your pocket, or rather on your pedal board. So go check out the Sweetwater Gear Exchange and turn that unused gear into something that's actually going to help you write that next huge riff. So this house becomes like a miniature society. They're like, okay, this is our house now. Well, it sucks. So let's fix it up. And they don't know how to fix anything. And this is pre-internet, but they learn plumbing and electrical, at least from a basic level. And they actually fix the place up to where it's okay. Like a lot better than it was. In their words, they kept painting over the cracks and it was held together by yellow paint, is what they said.
Every punk collective in history has like somehow managed to gain squatters access to some sort of asset like this and turn it into a collective where there's parties or whatever. That's like a central piece of it.
Yeah, they really tried to make this a like very self-sufficient thing. They even tried growing potatoes. They got blight. It didn't work. So they switched to just getting cheap food. But they shared all the duties. They pooled all their money. You know, some of them had little odd jobs here and there. They had a basement printing press that was, of course, what else would it be doing? Pumping out anarchist material.
Yeah, it was.
Of course,
I'd love to see one of those zines.
Mm-hmm. And then this is the part that really, really makes me concerned, not because they're bad people, but I'm concerned about the judgment of the parents that allowed this to happen. They also made money by babysitting some of the neighborhood kids.
Oh,
yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
Huh. Mm-hmm. I presume they would go to the children's houses and they wouldn't drop the kids off daycare style.
Some kids were there at the house. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
And I would say that sounds impossible, but as a slight segue, in my teen years, I worked for a restoration company, which if your house catches on fire or has a water leak or something, you call a restoration company to work with the insurance company and fix it up. So as you can imagine, most of the jobs were a mess.
Yeah.
And One time
Sounds
I
awful.
had to do a pack out, which means you take everything out of the house that is in there and take it to be cleaned or disposed of on a hoarder's house. And it was one of the most disgusting experiences of my life. They had multiple refrigerators that had not been plugged in for a long time, yet were completely full. They had all kinds of stuff. They had like somewhere between 9 and 13 vacuum cleaners stuffed into various parts of the house that they clearly never used.
Yep.
And to like put an emphasis on how gross this house was, I was cleaning out the basement. I took a box that was sitting on top of another box off of it. And I took it to we kind of did like a fire line thing where we were handing things off. And once I took that box off and handed it to the next one, I went to grab the other box and I saw there was a dead rat on it that was partially squished. So what they did was go, oh no, there's a rat, and throw a box up there and squish the rat and just leave it there for probably at least 5 years, I'm going to say.
For forever, yes.
Yeah. That's the kind of house
It really was Schrodinger's rat. Once they put it in that box, until somebody opened the box, there was no rat.
That's right. Yes. And I was the one, unfortunately.
I sure never want to be the guy.
I tell that story to say, you know what these people did for a living? They ran a daycare out of that house. And they actually did do it somehow. So my question of like, how are parents like letting this happen? I guess some people don't investigate very far, apparently, which is a little troubling, to say the least. But yeah, that was my experience with cleaning the hoarder house. So yeah, it's a little weird. So moving on from that, they're still in the squatter house. And this is when Dunstan Bruce checks in. Haha.
Thank you. I'm so glad you found a way to work that in.
I really needed to. So he joins via a classic bandmates wanted sign, and he drops out of architecture school. Now, this is the interesting one where everyone else is a very like scrappy working class background, and he comes from a much higher place in life, but he does not stay there. So it's kind of one of those weird things where, is he with us or is he not with us? He seems like he's one of them and we're trying to fight against those people. But as soon as he drops out of architecture school to do this, his family disowns him. So he's effectively in the same position. Right?
That's always the thing. It's like the punk who's like living the same as us, but they have something to fall back on. They've got an emergency parachute out anytime they want.
Yes.
Which makes it a little bit easier. You can deal with all sorts of rough life circumstances if you're like, nope, it's too much. I'm going back to the mansion.
I'm bailing.
Yep.
I've had enough.
Bye.
Yep. And he did not have that so much as it may seem to some people. I think some people have actively tried to point out that, oh, yeah, well, you're a rich kid. I'm like, well, if your family disowns you, you're effectively in the exact same position. So,
but you got a little bit of a maybe there. You might be able to show back up again and be like, I'm sorry.
Maybe. Depends on how aggressive it becomes. But so during this time, politics obviously is a big part of what they do and what they work on and they work towards. And this is during the 1984/85 UK miners' strike. And I've got some notes here that I've just wrote out, so I'll just go ahead and read those. The miners' strike is one of the biggest labor battles in modern British history. It was a big, big deal. Lots of attention on it. And it kicks off in 84, runs roughly a year, and it's kind of centered around like the mines want to close out some of these pits because they're not being productive anymore, / they can get it from other places cheaper, same old story. What's interesting is it's like super heavily policed. So they're sending in effectively the troops to try to deal with these strikes and clashes. And there's a big event in Orgreave in June of 84 where it gets really violent and really out of hand. So that was kind of like everything coming to a head. And the strike ended up ending in 85 with the miners defeated and the mines ended up closing. And a lot of people view it as like a major step in the UK in weakening union power and kind of accelerating the decline of those towns.
I mean, this was just in the air. You had, at the same time, you had Reagan and the air traffic controllers strike. So you had labor unions responding to the sort of Reagan, Maggie Thatcher over there and kind of flaring up. And then in both cases, really being tamped down.
Yep. Yep. And more on Thatcher later, which is an
What'd you call her?
Thatcher.
Well, you said moron Thatcher.
Oh, whoops. I didn't say it. You did.
Anyway, we'll get back to the Iron Lady.
Listen, there'll be plenty on old Marge. We'll get to old Marge later.
Maggie, please. Anyway,
Maggie, whatever. She's not nice enough to be a Maggie. Anyway,
I agree. She looks like a Marge.
Yeah. So Chumbawamba, what do they have to do with it, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they aren't just playing benefits for the union workers and all that stuff like you would expect something like a band like them to do. They're organizing. They're down there doing picket support with like food and like they're like really in the trenches on this thing. They are not just standing by. A lot of punk bands will talk about things, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. Things need talked about. But Chumbawamba was actually, which sounds weird to say, Chumbawamba was down there fighting the battle. Mm-hmm. Right? It's kind of interesting. And up to this point, it's worth noting that they are extreme pacifists. Like they are very like against any form of violence. And that's part of the whole gig. I should have wrapped that in earlier because it's part of their whole thing up to this point. So while they're doing some of this stuff, Nazis, actual, neo-Nazis show up to their show, and it's a benefit show for the miners. And of course, violence gets just totally out of hand, as it does when Nazis show up, turns out.
Yeah. There's a lot of, the non-Nazi skins and the Nazi skins in the UK battling it out.
That was a thing actually here in Portland in the 90s too.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yep. A big thing, bigger than I realized because I was a little young, but looking back,
you'll notice that I presently have yellow laces on my Doc Martens.
That's the way. That is the way. So they're obviously a little freaked out during that, and it's a little difficult for pacifism to prevail when the Nazis show up. And eventually their van gets smashed by supposedly one of the Nazis, or at least a very far right person. And the band pretty much immediately decides we're not pacifists anymore. We're done with that. And they grab a baseball bat and a few other items to keep on hand. And that same person comes to destroy their van again. Well, it didn't go so well that time.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Chumbawamba did some tubthumping. Let's put it that way. And told them never to return. I'm sure in different language than what I am currently.
That's always
using.
the worst. You show up to a house and you're looking to do what you're looking to do, and you think it's going to be real easy, and then all of a sudden you see Macaulay Culkin up there. Yep. You're like, oh no,
oh boy,
this isn't going to be as easy as I thought it was.
Yep, he's strapped up with his BB gun. The smell of paint's in the air, maybe kerosene. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh,
bad news bears.
Oh boy, my tub's about to get thumped. So it's worth noting, Chumbawamba during this whole time, they are just being a band. So they're doing all the anarchist stuff and they're doing all of the protesting and all these things, but they are playing shows, selling merch, all that same stuff that a band does. And they actually are doing pretty well, relatively speaking. It's not like any of them are just swimming in money, but they're able to support themselves through this and support their causes through this. And they get to a point where they're opening for Motorhead. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And in the most Chumbawamba thing possible, you know how Motorhead is. It's leather, it's loud, Lemmy worship, lots of beer drinking, lots of like type of things, a lot of machismo. Yeah.
There's a lot of like leather vests and those leather hats and stuff, but in a like it's not gay. Here in this specific context.
Specifically.
It isn't.
Yeah, specifically.
Even though in most all other contexts, you might look at that and be like, that guy looks like a leather daddy, right? You're like, no, that's Lemmy.
No, that's Lemmy.
It's like, not like that at all.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's just drunk.
Yeah, that's fine. He can get away with whatever. So Chumbawamba comes out. You can imagine what the Motorhead crowd is expecting. They want loud. They want rock and roll. They want to hear it, baby. Chumbawamba says, "No, we're gonna hit him with a cappella."
Oh.
So they all go out and they're just singing a cappella, and they're singing old like worker songs and that kind of thing, and getting everybody to go the ha-da, 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 da, 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 like that kind of vibe. And that crowd doesn't really appreciate it so much.
Doesn't go over well.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if maybe it gets them in their bones.
Yeah, it didn't really hit them. There was a lot of middle fingers. There was a lot of confusion, a lot of get off the stage. But Chumbawamba doesn't really care. It's just how they do it. They are completely
there to
unfazed.
antagonize.
Yeah, They didn't really go there. Like most people opening for Motorhead would be going there to try to win new fans. They were going there to promote these working class ideals. That's what they were doing. They were like, okay, this is the biggest stage we've ever played on. Let's hit them with the ideas. And that's a big part of what makes these people who they are.
Yeah, it's pretty punk.
Yep. So they're going on tour. This is a thing that bands do. They go to Dublin. And things are a little as buttoned up as they were in the UK. They were similarly buttoned up over in Dublin at this time. So Alice comes out on stage, dressed like a nun, chugging whiskey straight out of the bottle. Just, hey, how's it going? And the whole band, which is, this is not legal to do at this time, they start distributing what I would call safety devices out into the crowd.
And this is an English band, for like an Anglican country coming to dominantly Catholic Ireland just before or in the Troubles and making a lot of direct fun of Catholicism.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, so that's not good. That's not going to go great.
So people are upset, and the venue completely bans them afterward. Now, this is a complete sidebar, and I don't know where else to put it because it doesn't fit into the story, but this happens like in amongst all this. So Boff sees what they call a fell runner, which I had to Google what that means. It's basically somebody who runs up and down mountains. It's a Scottish term, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. So he sees a fell runner with a pink mohawk, and there's a riot that occurs. And of course, there's a lot of cops that come to break up said riot. And this guy just takes off. And then a whole crew of police are chasing him. Because he's a runner, he's able to just straight up through pure horsepower, just outrun everybody and evade the cops. And so Boff's like, that's cool. I'm going to start running. So he just gets super into running after that and gets very cardiovascular, very, very good cardiovascular health, and is able to sprint away from police in dangerous situations. Not a bad idea.
Not a bad superpower. Yeah.
Yeah. I just loved that. And I was like, I don't know where else to put it. So I'm just going to shove it in because chronologically it's somewhere in this time frame.
Love it.
Yeah. So they're starting to get more and more notoriety. This is the early 90s at this point, and the band is shifting into a more structured cooperative. So there's lots of meetings. They very specifically mention throughout their whole career how many meetings they have. They have a lot of cooperative meetings. And they move out of the squat. They all kind of get different places to live, so they're actually doing even better financially at this point. They're paying themselves wages, they're paying helpers, and they're also doing their best to keep their activism alive. And they kind of specifically said they were sick of romanticizing poverty. So they're like, well, we've got the resources. Why are we pretending that we don't? We can go live in a normal house. That's an acceptable thing to do. So they write they write an album, and they deliver it to their indie label. And the indie label says, absolutely not. Go write better songs. Like, these are terrible. And they're like, no, we think these are very good. These are very good songs. And later, after they've decided, like, well, we're going to put this out one way or another, a major label comes knocking, EMI. Now, this is funny because they were featured on a former compilation called FEMI. Specifically, EMI comes knocking to them and says, but wait, we have money for you. Now, they've
That puts
criticized...
you in a difficult bind as long-running anarchists.
It does. But they're starting to see that life doesn't have to be as uncomfortable as it is. Maybe we can still be anarchists and still, As you can see, this gets a little dicey. So those in the scene are like, And it's almost like their identity kind of gets put on trial by the punk scene from which they sprung from.
Yeah.
So they talk about this for weeks. They're not trying to do a democratic vote on it either, where it's like the majority rules. They are actually trying to, as a group, come to a consensus. We all agree that we're going to do this. And they're like, we're broke. We're getting older. The indies exploit us too. And they're like, one of the big ones was, if capitalism is capitalism, we might as well get paid and redirect the money to things that we believe in. And they were
This
tired.
is an interesting conclusion that I've heard before.
Yes.
That it's easy to come to.
Yes. And they said they were tired of like being concerned what people thought, and they wanted to do what they thought they should do instead. So they took the deal.
Those punk and anarchist worlds can be very performative in many ways. And there's
very much.
A lot of specifics about how you have to be and all this and that.
Yeah, and that is something that they mentioned too, off and on throughout the whole all of my research, where they can't get out of their own way. They have these ideals that are so rigid and firm, but yet there's another smaller part of the subculture that maybe doesn't agree with that. So they don't associate with that, even though overall they have the same goals, kind of like veganism and non-veganism. There's like the vegans are over here and they don't want to associate with the non-vegan anarchists. So that they can't come together and actually move forward with their goal in a way that would actually help. And that was something that they realized is a problem and they needed to get over it.
Hello there. I'd like to introduce you to your new best friend, the Chase Bliss Audio Lossy. Lossy is a collaboration between Chase Bliss and Good Hertz. And it's meant to give you some control over those weird digital artifacts that come with very compressed audio. You're hearing it right now. All the changes that are taking place are strictly coming from my playing dynamics. I'm just interacting with the pedal and letting it do its thing. In some true stereo goodness. If you'd like some more details about Lossy, I'd invite you to head over to chaseblintsaudio.com. I think you're going to like what you find.
Are you going to talk about Thorn, or can I have a brief
Please,
moment?
have a brief moment.
So, as I understand it, like a lot of the rub with EMI from this community was because of their affiliation with Thorn Electrical Industries. So there was this company called Thorn that was manufacturing like a bunch of different stuff, lighting and switches and radios and all this sort of different junk. And they had some defense components to that because of that. Like they were making lighting or switches or, audio visual equipment for like aerospace and stuff like that. So that would be used by the Army and things like that. But of course they were like doing a lot of radio and stuff like that. And they merged with EMI in the late 70s. I assume because of the sound reproduction stuff, making radios and boom boxes and all that sort of stuff. And that created Thorn EMI. So weirdly, like EMI, which I know is like a label, also had this whole division that manufactured various audio parts for various consumer end uses, including maybe defense. I'm not the expert on that. I found that fascinating. So that was a lot of the rub.
Yeah. I'm actually
not
glad
just that they were a major label.
I'm glad you wedged that in there because I kind of deleted that, but it's actually important to note, I think, because that is part of the controversy. I mean, it's all controversy with the anarchists. Everything's controversial.
Right.
But that is, it's a valid criticism. So after they decide to do it, they see a drunk Irishman, and he is stumbling home singing, what else? Danny Boy. right?
Mm-hmm.
And a neighbor sticks their head outside and tells him to shut up, and he falls down. And then he gets up again. And then he falls down. And then he gets up again. And he continues to do this for quite a while until they no longer see this fella. That is what they say they inspired them to make not only a drinking song, but specifically the line that everybody knows. I get knocked down.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that. But they're also like trying to make it as goofy and as like silly as that song is. They're kind of viewing it as like not everything has to be so serious all the time. Like the community can come together and have fun. And we can, and that's part of what makes a community worth being in, is being able to have these enjoyable experiences. So they wanted it to be like that. But they also the words are also what most people take them to be, like a form of resistance. Like, you're going to knock us down, but we're going to keep coming back. Like, it's both things. It's both of those things. And as we know, that absolutely exploded. Just completely. everybody in the Western world has heard that song at some point, most likely. If you've heard music,
it was everywhere. It's such a catchy hook. And it's got a lot of weird stuff. There's this voiceover at the beginning of it. Truth says I thought it mattered. I thought the music mattered. Yeah. I was today years old when I learned that is Peter Postlethwaite.
Oh, really?
Yes. So, and I probably told you this story before because I've known you a long time, but for the listeners' benefit, if nothing else, do you remember the second Jurassic Park, The Lost World, where Jeff Goldblum and a very young Vince Vaughn go back to the island?
I do, not as well as the first one, obviously, but I do remember it.
Okay, well, you're just going to have to trust me on that then. Mm-hmm. But in The Lost World, there is this character who's like he ostensibly South African or Australian, like big game hunter, who's kind of running the engine show on the island. And all he wants is to hunt a T-Rex. That's his prize, Well, so years later, somebody asked Steven Spielberg, who's the best actor you've ever worked with? Is it Tom Hanks? Is it, he's worked with all these different people. And Steven Spielberg, without batting an eye, says, Peter Postlethwaite. The best actor that Steven Spielberg had ever worked with is that guy. The guy in The Lost World. Yes.
Really?
Yes. And he is like a notable, Shakespearean actor. He's been in all sorts of different stuff, Romeo and Juliet and James and the Giant Peach and Alien 3 and all of that. But it just fascinated me that that's Peter Postlethwaite, and that's who Steven Spielberg says is the best actor in the world. And that is who is in the beginning of Tubthumping.
Okay, I learned a lot of stuff too. Look at this. I don't think you have told me that story before. If you did, I erased it from my memory. So it's like I'm hearing it for the first time.
Too is good. I had the CD and I liked it. It's weird.
I'm calling your mom.
Yeah, I had a burned CD. Call the record labels. But they all flow into each other. And so at the end of Tubthumping, I was always surprised they did this on the edit. It goes the whole way through, and at the end you hear this reverse boom. That's the next song that it flows into, but it's just like there's like a couple of bars left on it, and then it just hard cuts. Okay, and that's the end of Tubthumping, which is kind of odd. It was like an odd place to do that cut. You're like hear the next song that's going, and then it just ends. Amnesia was another single off this that I remember, and nobody else that I have ever met remembers. That was like the B-side, like second single they were pushing. Do you suffer from long-term memory loss? I can't remember. It's fun. I liked this album. It's weird. There's a lot going on, but you got to remember, like contextually in the late 90s, you had big beat happening where you're like all sorts of different crazy samplings occurring, Fatboy Slim and that. Even in like more traditional band music, you have like Beck. Like people are throwing all sorts of different genres together on the same album for the first time in the late 90s. That's kind of a thing. And this album really does that.
Nice. Very nice. Well, it's nice that you had a burned copy because Alice said, I'm going into like what they start doing after they're huge and famous, right? Alice says publicly, if you can't afford it, steal it from big chains. Like, so she's cool with it.
Yeah.
She specifically said like, steal it from Virgin or something. Like, she didn't care.
Do you remember the Suicide Machines album, Steal This Record?
I was thinking of System of a Down, Steal This Album.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Also that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is a theme that has occurred a few times. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I did remember that Suicide Machines one now that you mention it. I get them kind of confused in my brain.
Me too, actually, because I was picturing the Steal This Album when I was thinking of Suicide Machines, but I was picturing the graphic.
Yes. Yeah. It's like a burned CD.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So here's just some shenanigans they get into. Here's one. Dan Burt, he's in Italy and he's for some reason deciding he wants to wear a skirt. So he's walking around in a skirt. And the Italian police, especially at this time, were known for a lot of machismo. And were like, I don't like that. So they arrest him. And nobody speaks English. And he's trying to explain to them who he is and that he needs to hurry up and get to the venue because sound check is happening. Mm-hmm. And eventually he just writes, I'm in a pop group called Chumbawamba on a piece of paper and gives it to them. And they find somebody that can read it. And then they realize who he is and they let him out. The next day on TV, though, he goes ahead and calls out the entire police department of Italy, like all of them, apparently. Mm-hmm. So that's fair enough, right? He didn't have a good experience, but he did get out in time to play the record. Yeah, Alice says, steal the album. When she said that, chain stores threatened to hide or remove it. But of course, as we discussed extensively on our PMRC episode, all this controversy just makes people want it more, right?
Yep.
Big
time.
That's all that happens. So they're huge. This is the 90s. What do you think maybe happens in the United States as a next step for a band like this that is on that rocket up? What's something they might do?
Well, you got to come to the U.S. and tour.
You do. And if you're going to do that, well, you got to go on David Letterman, right? So
fair. This
is quite a turning point because Chumbawamba is still Chumbawamba. Mm-hmm. So they're like, we're on one of the biggest television shows. We can play our single that everybody knows. What if we change some of the lyrics to something that is a message we want to get out there? How about Free Mumia Abu Jamal? And for those who don't know who that is, he was a former journalist and political activist who was convicted for the 1981 murder of a Philadelphia police officer and sentenced to death. And this was a extremely controversial conviction for a variety of reasons. That would be probably a 3-part episode in and of itself that has nothing to do with music. So we're not going to dive into that there. But there's a lot of controversy around the constitutional rights that were possibly violated when he was arrested, whether there's some gray area around whether he was guilty or not. So it's like a very, very controversial thing. In fact, he was known as the most famous person on death row at the time. And they are saying, free him in this very, very public performance. Now, it's pre-recorded. They insert the chant into the song. And backstage, everyone in the Letterman crew immediately is starting to tear their hair out. Like, what do we do? Do we air this? I don't know. What should we do? What should we do? And they're like, well, they didn't say anything, against the FCC regulations or anything like that.
That's a fair point. Yeah, they're not cursing. They're not talking about anything lewd.
Yeah. So they're like, all right, roll it. So they did. Yeah. And you can imagine the firestorm that brought up. You're bringing up one of the most controversial cases of that generation and saying the guy that's convicted needs freed. It was quite a firestorm moment in the press for them, which of course does what? Generates more sales.
Totally. Yep. All things lead to more capitalism.
Yep. And all of this is just pumping them full of cash and also pumping EMI full of cash, of course. But they are doing what they say. They're paying everybody evenly, even though there is clearly a front person of the band. Like Dunstan doesn't get any more money than anyone else. And they also are donating to all these causes in a very meaningful way now because they actually have the resources to do it. Mm-hmm. So moving on, they go to the Brit Awards. And this is probably the climax, at least in the public eye, of Chumbawamba's activism. Although, they continue to do stuff for a long time afterwards. But they're on the Brit Awards, and there's a man named John Prescott there. John Prescott is the deputy prime minister under Tony Blair's new Labour Party. Mm-hmm. And he's supposed to be like the working class-y guy in the government. Like, I'm one of you guys, right? It's all good. And Chumbawamba doesn't view it that way. They view him as somebody that's selling out his friends while branding himself as modern and cool. Mm-hmm. So that's how they view Mr. Prescott. He's kind of like the face of like, you came from us and turned against us. Thanks a lot, buddy. Mm-hmm. So there's at the same time, the Liverpool dockers dispute, which we would probably know as longshoremen here in this country, people who unload boats. That's what that is. And they're in a long and bitter labor fight in the 90s, and they are similar to the miners kind of getting crushed under the boot. And Chumbawamba obviously is not a big fan of that. And they're very much viewing John Prescott as kind of the face of this happening. So they go to the Brit Awards, and they're invited, nominated, and the Brit Awards folks are like, please don't cause any chaos. Please do not physically attack any other artists. Please don't. Just try to keep it as tame as you can, Chumbawamba. And they project all these visuals behind them as they're going up to accept their award, like red and black imagery, and they change the chorus of the song to New Labour sold out the dockers. And so it's all kinds of stuff. They see Prescott sitting there in the audience. They obviously thought of this beforehand. Dan Burt jumps on a table, has a thing of water, and dumps it all over Prescott. Just dumps him. And he says, "This is for the Liverpool dockers," as he does it. Hoses him down. Alice follows suit. Same thing. Boosh. Just all on front of everyone. Is he sitting
there just trying to act cool?
And he actually, to his credit, I suppose, he plays a good sport about it. He's like, all right, well, I guess I had that coming type of attitude. He didn't say that necessarily, but he didn't do anything about it either. And then after it happened, people would obviously ask him about it. And he's a good sport about it. The tabloids erupt, the labels are freaking out, but Prescott doesn't really do anything. So, that was their like highlight moment of showing the public like who they are as people. And moving on, they go there. I already mentioned this, but they got the equal splits going on. No one's a star. There is some pressure though internally where they're like, but we have money. Can I buy a Jaguar? Like, would that be okay? And they ultimately decide probably not. So, Dan's middle-aged anarchist flex, as he calls it, is he buys a fancy vacuum cleaner.
I appreciate his commitment.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah. But they're donating to kids' football teams, community events, different music venues, radical media projects, prisoner defense campaigns, that whole thing. So yeah, and another thing that they did that was really cool, when they signed with the label, they were very specific about their licensing. Like, we're not going to have our merch printed in sweatshops. We're not going to work with the arms industry, which is probably part of what you were talking about.
Right.
And if there's bigger deals that come along, we don't care. We don't want anything to do with it if it violates our principles, basically. So they keep making music for a long time after the hit. In 2004, a few members leave just due to personal differences, and it doesn't get gross or it's not in the tabloids. No one's freaking out about it. It's pretty amicable. But they did decide to disband in 2012. And remember how I said Thatcher was going to come up again? So Thatcher, Margaret Thatcher, Large Marge, whatever we want to call her, Maggie,
the Iron Lady.
The Iron Lady. There's a lot of terms. Chumbawamba disbanded in 2012, but they did one more thing. She dies in 2013. Well, they had an EP just for this occasion. and they dedicated it to anyone who she had ever hurt or killed. Like in her name specifically. Margaret
What's the
Thatcher.
title of the EP?
Good grief. It's in here somewhere. Come on, where's it at? It'd probably be faster for me to Google it.
Was it not Thatcher specific? I was just curious if it was like
I did have it, but I can't remember. Let's see. People will want to know that. It is In Memoriam, Margaret Thatcher. Yeah, okay. There we go.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Yes. I knew it was Thatcher in the title, but I couldn't remember what they said before then. So yeah, literally dedicated to her. Came out after the band broke up, but they saved it for when she died. Mm-hmm. So Chumbawamba is a rather complicated thing. They aren't the one-hit wonders that we would necessarily believe them to be. But when they finally did disband, they wrote a rather long segment on their website kind of describing everything. And I pulled a couple different paragraphs out of it that I think will be a good way to wrap this up. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to go ahead and read this statement from the Chumbawamba website. So again, I pulled this from a few different places. So if you want to read the whole thing, it's available on chumba.com. So here we go. Chumbawamba was our vehicle for pointing at naked emperors, for telling our version of the truth. It gave us more than the joy and love of playing live, writing songs, and singing together. It gave us a chance to be a part of a broad coalition of activists and hectors, optimists and questioners. But eventually, the rest of our lives got in the way, and we couldn't commit the time and enthusiasm that the band demanded. Couldn't keep up with whatever responsibilities came with a band like this. If there ever were a Chumbawamba manifesto, it would read in the inconsistent, contradictory language of the Dadaists. Part strident belligerence and part foolishness. This ending is no different. It comes almost as much of a surprise to us as it may do to you. Always more clown than politician, the band trips over its outsized feet and performs its final tumble. We do, of course, reserve the right to reemerge as Chumbawamba, doing something else entirely, certainly not touring and putting out albums every 2 or 3 years. But frankly, that's not very likely. 30 years of being snotty, eclectic, funny, contrary, and just plain weird. What a privilege and what a good time we've had. And that is my presentation on Chumbawamba.
That is so cool, man. I've known a lot of this story, but not like the full depths of it all. I really just know like the 90s chunk. Yeah. Few thoughts on my end. For one, I wonder what it was that got the A&R at EMI to sign Chumbawamba. I know. And it's wild that he was so right about it. Mm-hmm. Because, like all the stuff up to that point is this weird. They've always had like a good ear for melody, but it's weirder. It's an odd signing to take a risk on. And especially when the band's like, our merch has to be printed here and this has to be that and all that. Mm-hmm. You're like, what are we doing here, guys? And then out of nowhere, they have this song that just is absolutely everywhere on the planet. Somebody took a bold risk there and it worked out. And also, they put out a follow-up album in 2000. It's the acronyms, but it's what you see is what you get. Okay. They had some songs on there. It got some good reviews and stuff, but it just didn't really sell. And that was kind of it. I think with every label, you're deciding if there's like a big hit like that, is this going to be a one-hit wonder or not? Mm-hmm. And it might be easy in hindsight to be like, oh, that was definitely a one-hit wonder. Why would you pay in advance to put out another album? But there have been things that have gone the other way. Everybody thought Beck was a one-hit wonder with Loser. Everybody. That song seemed so weird and just like this one-hit wonder. And then he became a huge artist, not quite to the same extent. Everyone thought the same thing about Sugar Ray with Fly, but then 1459 that had every morning and someday and all that. So it's always worth the risk, but it didn't quite pan out. And also it's worth noting, like, come 2001, 9/11 happens, and a lot of the sort of sentiment from the middle that felt kind of, straddled between far right and far left and had some appreciation for the sort of, let's say, like radical sides of the political spectrum. Mm-hmm. A lot of that went away in September 2001. Mm-hmm. Everyone kind of united behind Bush and Tony Blair. Not everyone. I'm sure not the Chumbawamba people. But,
no, they certainly didn't.
But broadly, a lot of people were like, go in and, what could go wrong? Let's get into a big, long military entanglement. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Anyway, and that just didn't leave a lot of oxygen. It was a little ways yet before you started seeing a lot of protests of the Bush-Blair, style of government. So I imagine that kind of snuffed out a little bit of what was available. But that's just my armchair. There are arms in this chair, but you can't see them at home. Theory on it all. But a better band than you maybe remember.
Yeah, probably so.
There's some good stuff in there. Good eye for hooks. It is exactly as they said. It's weird. It's really weird.
Yes, and it's intentionally weird, and they're intentionally weird. So it all pencils. But it's as much as they might be viewed as a one-hit wonder, we all still know that song as soon as it comes on. And as soon as it comes on, you got to feel like, it's very, very catchy. And it's probably a bigger hit than most one-hit wonders have. Like, it sounds weird to say that. Like, there's songs that get really big and then they go away. But I think if you put on Tubthumping, I always call it thumping, even though it's thumping. I don't know why. So I just,
it was the album was Tub Thumper, if I'm remembering right.
I think that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Tubthumping off of the album Tub Thumper.
But I always say Tub Thumping because I'm a hillbilly and that's what happens.
I also think go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, you put that on in any pub now and people are going to start singing it. Like it hasn't lost as much, a little bit, and some of it's tongue in cheek, but it hasn't really like lost steam the way some one-hit wonders do.
Yeah. I have to talk about one more thing, and then we can wrap this up. But to the musicians out there listening, this song has to set a record for song structure for multiples of chorus at the end. So let's chart this out real quick. So we've got that crazy kind of weird Peter Postlethwaite intro. And then we've got the We'll Be Singing bit, which is kind of like a pre-chorus, and then chorus. All right. And then we do a second chorus. And then we go into this alternate, the pissing the night away, drinks a whiskey drink, vodka drink, lager drink, cider drink, songs are again, yada, yada, Danny boy. And then chorus again. All right. So that's chorus number 3. And then we do a little pissing the night away thing, whiskey drink, whole structure again. And then we're back into it. Chorus. And at the end, we go chorus, 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 one final chorus. I believe, if I might have miscounted, I think that is 9 choruses to round it out. If you're looking at the lyrics of the song, you could wallpaper your house with the section that's just the choruses at the end.
That's why people can be forgiven for thinking that this song only does the chorus over and over and over and over. Because at the end, it does.
It does. That's it. That's like probably 2-3 minutes of the song at the end. Just boom. But when you got a hook, man,
it's a good hook.
Use the hook.
Yeah.
That's what it's there for.
I mean, the hook comes back.
See, it's funny that's the way I think what the hook gonna be, which was like a bad. So I think that was Murphy Lee. It was one of the St. Lunatics, Nelly's group. That was their thing, which is just like a fun riff on like, I can't figure out what the hook's gonna be. So it's like, what the hook gonna be? No, I don't need no hook on this beat. You're like, oh man, lame. It's pretty good. I appreciate that you went to John Popper and Blues Traveler. You maybe think about Blues Traveler more than you might know. You reference in Blues Traveler, I think, pretty often.
Do I?
Yeah, like more than you'd think. My wife did this to me about Aaron Brockovich. She was like, you talk about Aaron Brockovich.
You do talk about Aaron Brockovich.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Strange thing to me. So maybe your Aaron Brockovich is John Popper and the rest of Blues Traveler.
If that's true, and it might be, I need to listen to Blues Traveler more because I barely do. I haven't listened to them in a very long time.
You only need to hear it once, and it's all right up there, man. Like Andy Dufresne said, it's all right in your head.
That's true. It is very, very true.
Well, dear listener, I hope that you one day can find your Aaron Brockovich or Blues Traveler, the thing that you love so much. It's all you want to talk about. Mm-hmm. I want to say thank you, as always, for listening to another episode of Tape Spaghetti. This was a fun one. I had a lot of fun. I hope that you had fun listening. If you are on any podcast player, please subscribe to this show. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to this show. If you're on something where you can leave a comment, which is mostly like Spotify and YouTube, please leave a comment on there. We would love to hear about your experience of Chumbawamba or your own personal Aaron Brockovich.
Yes, please do all that, folks. And if you didn't like this episode, I don't know why you're still here. Go do something productive. All right, folks, there you have it. There's another episode of Tape Spaghetti. If you enjoyed this, well, you're in luck because there are like 55 more episodes available wherever you are hearing this. Go find Tape Spaghetti on your podcast service of choice. Hit subscribe, and that would really, really, really make my day. I would appreciate that so, so much. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoy all the content that I put out. And if you need more of it, well, I'm publishing a sneak preview of an upcoming episode for this week's Patreon subscribers. That's right, they're getting it early. They're getting it before anyone else. And they've got some more bonus content coming their way. So if you'd like to be one of those people, please go over to patreon.com/tonemob, where for just $5 a month, yeah, inflation's hitting everywhere, but so far, we're not doing it over here. Please, if you can, consider supporting over there and getting you those bonus goods. Alrighty, folks, thank you so much. I will talk to you on the internet very, very soon. Bye-bye. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.